All right. So thank you so much for joining us today, especially if you're live, if you've made time to join us out of a busy Thursday. Really appreciate that. And if you are watching this recording, thank you for taking the time to do that. First of all, I'd like to welcome, I'll formally introduce them in just a second, but I'd like to welcome the three guests that we're going to be speaking with today in, I don't know if it shows up on your screen the same as it does mine, but in my top left hand corner, I just feel like Hollywood Squares. Just for a minute, I have to tell you that.
Yeah.
On my top left, Pam Klein is joining us from Regina. And Mark, I always practice your name a few times before I have to force myself to say it. So Mark Marsolais-Nahwegahbow is joining us.
Wow, very good.
Thank you. I take pride in that, from back east, from Ottawa. And Miriam Johnson is also joining us on our top right from Regina as well. So thank you for being here today. I'm going to ask the three of you to just give us a short introduction as to who you are. You've been introduced to the group as our 3 out of 4 of our keynote speakers, and I do definitely want to mention Tom Watson, who's not able to join us today, but we said that we'd rope him into another interview at some point over the next few months. And he's traveling today, wasn't able to join us. I'm just wondering if you could provide for those who maybe don't know you, and I'm mostly centering, I think, on Mark on this one. What would you, I know intros are, there's so much we could say, but what would you most like to start with in terms of letting people know who you are as one of our 3 out of 4 of our Keynote Accelerator speakers? Mm-hmm. And we'll do the funny thing first, Mark. I'm actually we usually say ladies first. I'm gonna put you on the spot and and ask you to just introduce yourself. Yeah.
All right. So you did get my name right. So it's Mark Marsolais-Nahwegahbow. So a little bit about me. So I'm First Nations. I'm Ojibwe, and I'm from an area called Birch Island, Ontario, more specifically Whitefish River First Nations. And it's funny when I change it up a lot, and when I'm introducing myself, and one thing I like to tell people is that I consider myself an inspiring First Nations entrepreneur to my communities on a national level, and I have a big responsibility for the businesses I have to be able to be one voice for many people to explain a lot of the issues and concerns that our communities are going through within Canada. And I hold that position very humbly, and it's a big role to play because I have a lot of community members that rely on me to get the message out there. And I think that when I look at some of our generations, for me, it's what inspires me is leaving really good footprints for people. And I'm very big on inspiring aspiring entrepreneurs to leave a legacy and leave a social impact on a national level.
Awesome. Thank you. We're going to come back. We're going to come back in a minute and just talk a little bit specifically about what you're up to in the world. And I'm just going to plant this question so you can think about it for a few minutes while these other 2 beautiful co-hosts answer their introduction. And it is really one of the things that I'd love to talk about with you today is how do you inspire and actually how do you inspire an entrepreneur to make that switch, not necessarily a switch, but also take the hat on. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm also a leader within that entrepreneur role. And so we'll come back to that in a minute when we talk a little bit about what you're up to.
Okay.
Pam, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. I think a lot of women in Regina in Saskatchewan know who you are, but some women that may be tuning in from BC or Alberta and on from there may not.
Well, sure. Thank you. And thanks for that recognition. I'm not sure it's completely true of how much knowing who I am, but I've certainly lived here long enough to have been some kind of reputation, albeit good or bad. But I'm really pleased to be part of this group. And I think given the topic around leadership and inspiration, as I share a little bit about what I do, I'm fortunate to lead an agency, advertising and communications agency in Saskatchewan, and we've been in business since '82. And I feel an entrepreneurial spirit. I wasn't a founder of the company, but I've been with the agency for 20 years and assumed the role after a variety of positions in the agency as president. And I'm also one of the shareholders in the agency. So I take very seriously the role of that position that comes with that, and the responsibility of employees in providing really dynamic, fulfilling work. And we're a values-based agency, so I really feel it's important that I practice what we preach and lead by example. And we work with a variety of industries and sectors, public, private, not-for-profit, and across a variety of industries from manufacturing to sports to entertainment, financial services, and a variety of clients we have. So it's super exciting work in this world of communications. And we think of PowHERhouse and certainly the media engine that you've been fueling, Charlene. And we understand that certainly our marketplace and that evolving world of media connection and engagement. So I'm in a very fortuitous position, and am further fueled by community and giving back and finding ways to make a difference in a more wholehearted, fulsome way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Miriam, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure. Well, my name is Miriam Johnson, and I am the Director of Marketing. After a career in marketing, I'm now the Director of Marketing for a small brand called the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm here today, because I think the brand has made its way into the hearts and homes of many, and it gains attention. And so, I have the pleasure of, guarding that brand and trying to make sure that we make the right moves as an organization. And I lead the team of marketers within that organization. So from the marketing team and the media team to our community relations team to data CRM. So it's an exciting role. Today was the first day we had players on the field. So it was our rookie camp started today. So it was like the official kickoff of the season. So there was just a buzz in the office and everyone was pretty excited just to see the guys out there and actually, on the field, like, here we go, here it is. So I'm excited to be here. Pam and I, we work together. Phoenix Group is the agency that we work with in order to achieve a lot of our goals, which I'm sure we'll go into a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I'd like to add that small brand you spoke of when you started with is actually the third most recognized sports brand in Canada.
Wow.
Yes. A great trait of a leader and being humble and modest.
That's right. Yes. Just a small little brand. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, all of you, and we definitely miss Tom Watson, and we will pull him into it shortly. So I'm just going to start off. Really, the purpose of today is, believe it or not, we're 120-ish days away from our Accelerator. That is the end of September, the 25th through the 27th in Regina. We all know how quickly that will pass. And one of my goals for today was to actually start the conversation. As Pam mentioned, I think a lot of the work that we can do as a group of like-minded leaders is to start to create the momentum, to create some energy and to also decide what it is that we want to happen as a result of an event, what type of advocacy work, what type of action. And so I'm going to just set the space for today and dive into a few specific questions that I have shared with you, to see what we want to, where we want to take the conversation. But I'll just say that the Leadership Accelerator in Regina is exactly that. It's an event, it's a platform, it's a vehicle to attract, engage, connect like-minded leaders that are looking to, what I say, live, love, and lead at a higher level. It's a co-creation. So we are actually all creating it together right now. My team is at the core, but with every mentor, advisor, friend, supporter, partner, speaker, facilitator, volunteer, with every single person that comes into play, we're actually co-creating the experience that we want to happen the end of September. And actually what we want to happen even more exciting than that as a result of that experience, because it's a 3-day event. So really, what do we want to happen as a result of that 3-day event? And I know that PowHERhouse certainly has some very specific goals for what we'd like to see happen, and I'm also very open to hearing yours. So in terms of kicking off the conversation, I think that I'm going to swing back to Mark and just ask him, that question. I know there's tons of conferences and opportunities out there to grow your business and be a more successful entrepreneur. And I think that all of those components are extremely important. And I'm wondering if you could speak to your role as an entrepreneur. And I think why we have connected and how we kind of are on the same wavelength. But how do you actually, where do you think the opportunity is to expand the role of an entrepreneur and actually get them to really sink their teeth into the fact that not only are you an entrepreneur, but you're a leader. You're making decisions about where you're taking your business and what you want to happen, the legacy that you're creating through your business and your life. Curious about that, because I think a number of people that sign up for the event will be entrepreneurs, and I think they'll be interested in what you're up to and what fuels you as an entrepreneur.
It's interesting. I'm a deep thinker. I mean, as people are listening, you'll get to know me over time. I'm very much, as an entrepreneur, I'm very much a million things going through my head, really deep thinking and thinking about a lot of, on a national and global level, what's going on out there in the world, and trying to, like you said, leave a legacy and a social impact. And one thing that popped in my head as we're talking is, I was thinking Accelerator ambassadors as we move forward. And leading by example is developing, creating people that can spread the word of what's happening with this event. And as an entrepreneur, I think that there's you have a huge responsibility, a huge message to instill proper values and beliefs, but also I think to really, and I keep going back to inspire people to really have a purpose in life, no matter what it is, whether it's your personal life or whether it's your business life, to challenge yourself and really look at the reasoning why you do what it is that you do. And really, one of the important things that I think with myself, and I share a lot, I mean, traditionally being First Nations, we're visionary people, so everything I talk about is from a grassroots and Indigenous lens. That when I became an entrepreneur, I really had to look internally myself and believe in what I was doing. And I think that's the most important thing, is believe in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, it almost, it resonates onto other people, and they start believing in what you're doing, and you create this journey for people. Whether it's a healing journey, whether it's an inspirational journey, I guess for everybody it's a different journey. But the one I'm on as an entrepreneur is to really, my purpose is to bring smiles to people's faces for what it is I'm doing, and I'm hoping that, I can really inspire people to do the same in whatever aspect they're doing in life. I hope that answers your question.
Mm-hmm. So can you, I know people have probably read a little bit about what you're up to in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but can you give a little snapshot as to the
Sure.
work of Birch Bark Coffee?
Yeah. So everything over time, I guess, when we do these webinars and stuff, I'll put things into perspective. I've been in business for 26 years, but this particular venture, this entrepreneurship of coffee, has only been in business as of April 1 year, and I've gone local, national to international attention. And I created an innovative social enterprise that's cost-driven with what I like to call a pay-it-forward attitude. So I've created a platform of coffee that's organic, fair trade, and specifically SPP, we call it, which is small producers, farmers helping farmers. And set proceeds of the coffee go towards buying certified water purification systems that I will be installing in Ontario and then across Canada in every Indigenous home that's suffering from a water advisory, all for free through the sales of the coffee. And it's amazing. It's been a really neat journey, and I always compare it to when I talk to people, a book. It's like when you turn the chapters, you're turning the chapters. It's like, I can't wait to get to the plot. I can't wait to get to the next chapter because it's so amazing. Mm-hmm. And that's the journey I'm on right now, and it's surreal, and I'm humbled by it, and I have a big responsibility as an entrepreneur. And I think that the legacy I want to leave is really bringing smiles to people's faces and ensuring that bring clean water every single family that's without in Canada, that frankly in my books should have never happened in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. I'm just wondering, before we move on to another question, Pam, do you or Miriam, do you have any a follow-up question or a comment to Mark about what he said, or about where he's at as an entrepreneur on this journey of actually creating a solution to a pretty major problem that's plaguing our country? Yeah, just curious if you had a follow-up or any comments on that.
I think the piece that really resonated for me was how he was explaining the journey being almost like a book, and I think that really resonates for life and for career. And I think that it doesn't matter really who you are or what you're doing. Like I know even for me, I thought, oh my, like what that is. I have definitely felt that in a personal life, and then also in your career, you're constantly getting to a point where you're going, okay, well, we got to that point now. Here's the next, and whether it's strategic planning, whether it's how you're growing your business, metrics you're trying to meet. So that was impactful to me.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, exactly.
I have it's fantastic work for what you're doing. It is inspirational for sure, and will motivate many. In this important work that you're doing, and I guess would be a thread through your book, is there a particular story encounter in a community when you've are addressing this water purification requirement? I'm sure they're all profound, but one in particular that you reflect on when it gets tough, because there are times in the book when the story isn't so great and it's difficult, but that the nugget or the piece or that heart that keeps you buoyed and going.
Yeah, actually, Pam, I'm glad you said that, because the one thing when I created this business, and what I like to refer to it, it's a bit of a tongue twister, but I call it the Indigenous Inclusion Continuum. And the inclusivity of including everybody has multiple layers to why I created this social enterprise. And the social enterprise, part of it was about integrity and doing something that you said you were going to do. And for our communities, it really resonated about self-determination, sovereigntyism, and really going into communities and being transparent and being honest when I make mistakes. And obviously I tell people we're filming this and we're documenting, and it'll be all over the news. It'll be all over the media nation and nation, and people will see the mistakes I made. And, when we go into a community, and like you said, if we're dealing, like say, with a well system, and we're dealing with uranium, and the purification systems, let's say, don't work. The integrity part is saying, okay, I'm not leaving the community. I'm actually staying there, and I'm going to come up with a solution. We're going to problem solve collaboratively as a group, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to bring back a cartridge that fits in the purification systems that's going to take the uranium out. And that's the part that the transparency, I think that it's about being real, a real person with a real business dealing with real social issues and not going anywhere. And I think that's the part that I really want to tell people, that we're here. It's about change. It's about time, and there's a shift, and now is the time to make change.
Yeah, I think that it is such a good segue into my next question. Now is the time. I think that, we're definitely being called, and I think the environment is really ripe for change. And so it's kind of like, okay, so what are we going to do with it now? Miriam, I'm going to start off with you with this question, and it's one that I did share with you. And so I'm curious, first of all, we've had discussions before about, my belief in sport being such a great vehicle and such a great teacher, as one of the ways that we've demonstrated our ability to pull the very, very best out of humans, to operate at their highest potential, or always strive to operate at their very highest potential towards a common goal. And that's one of the things that I deeply love most about sport, and that it's been just a great teacher for me. PowHERhouse, believes that every single leader also deserves this opportunity, this environment, this playing field, to go for it with all of they've got to make a world-class impact. We believe that the potential is there in every single person. The question is, how is that potential fully realized? How do we create that right environment, provide what is needed, give them that kickstart? And the word that comes to mind for me is, how do we fully activate and accelerate leaders? And so, as you know, at the Accelerator, we will be throwing around some sports analogies, not to be cliche, and some ideas that we see successfully being used in sport year after year, Grey Cup after Grey Cup. But I'm wondering, from your position as a leader, as a woman who has mentored other leaders and been mentored, and also someone that works closely in sport, what do you think? Where do you see the biggest opportunity? What do you think we could learn most from sport at this time in terms of an interactive leadership conversation? Where does that make you want to go with this conversation?
Well, I think what PowHERhouse is doing, though, it's like, it's giving the big arrow. It's kind of saying like, this is where we want to go. And it's giving leaders an opportunity to all kind of join forces to kind of go, okay, well, yeah, we all agree that's the direction we want to go. When you think about it, it's and how it actually applies into sport, what comes to my mind is, there's there's either the player, you've got the coach, and you've got the team. And so, in my opinion, like you're always in one of those roles, whether that's you as your individual, like as the player going, okay, well, that's where I want to go. How do I myself, or how do my staff as individual players, what do I need to do in order to achieve those goals? We all know our own personal weaknesses. We all know the things that we as people, as individuals, need to do. No one's perfect. Like none of us are perfect leaders. We're not perfect employees. Like there's things that we're all trying to do better. And so just like in sport, like when you're trying to get to that next level, you're training, you're this, you're that. So what are the pieces that you're doing then in order to get yourself to that position? But then, like, I think for this, and like when you're actually speaking on it, like you're more in a coach setting as to, how are you leading? How are you showing that example? It's now looking at your own team, if you do get to lead a team, or people that you do mentor, or connections that you have, what are you doing in order to help them get to that next level? But every single thing leads to actually operating as a team. So, you do have an individual athlete, we can metaphor it like as an entrepreneur, or, that they're there in their race. But in many organizations, you are combining forces, and you have to become that team in order to try to get to achieve that goal. But I feel like what PowHERhouse is doing, though, is I feel like what's happening is, across the country, people are all going, okay, like, I feel like you're helping everyone kind of go, okay, well, here's the big goal. Like, do we all agree that these are the directions that, we need to move in as leaders? How do we help? How do we start moving in that direction? So, I think that it just gives another area of focus as people are either developing themselves, or, making note of going, okay, you know what? I have a responsibility here. And what am I going to do in order to help us collectively get there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. What resonated for me, and then I'm going to see what Pam heard or would like to add from that. So thank you for kicking it off. That's always where do I want to start? What really resonated for me was the ripple of responsibility. Like if I look at it for myself, and I'm just wondering if it, for you and for anybody on the call, I think about it as, okay, what do I need to do to live, love, and lead, like to show up at a higher level? I'm not satisfied. I can do better. And then what do I need to do in my coaching role? Like, who do I need to be to best support the amazing women around me, where I see so much potential to up-level my team? And then out from there, who do we need to be to influence, advocate, activate, catalyze, like you name it, to because our sport right now could be played at a much higher level. Our sport of leadership and how people are leading needs to be up-leveled in a serious way. Mm-hmm. in my humble opinion. And so I really, in my humble opinion, in my, so I really get like the ripple of like, here's what I can do. Mm-hmm. Here's how I need to help those around me. But now what do I need to do? Like, or what can we do collectively to up-level how we're leading, the decisions we're making, and who we're being as leaders collectively in Canada? Because I certainly mm-hmm. hear some other discussions about other countries doing some pretty remarkable things, and no like name dropping of female prime ministers or anything like that, but some really cool things happening. And I'm like, we're kind of getting left behind here, in my humble opinion. So anyway, I will be quiet now. Pam, I'm wondering if you can save me. What are your thoughts, like, from where?
I'm right in there with you, so.
Don't get me started. Just with what Miriam was saying, her thoughts around, why sport, these analogies, what do we want to do with this? What can we learn? What kind of comes to you in that vein about that potential that's there, but how do we create the environment to take what we know now and how we're activated now to what might be possible?
Well, I think that the sports analogy is a strong one, and whether you've participated yourself, whether you watch, whether you enjoy it, I've seen mostly the power through my children who are actively involved and still are as young adults in sport as to what those lessons are. And it's on the field, it's off the field, and not unlike in business. It's in the office, it's out of the office. It is this kind of fully rounded opportunity to be exposed to others, to celebrate the success, experience the losses, but be able to move on. I think that's one great thing with sport is it's one game and then it's on to the next one. Like, we can't wallow in our loss, and we can't revel in our success too long, because drawing on the book analogy, the chapter changes. And I think that's really powerful from what Miriam said, of the sport and of team. There's the player, there's the team, and there's the coach. And I think for us as leaders, when you ask specifically about how do we mobilize, how do we do more, I think of the first PowHERhouse lunch I was at, and it really struck me how important it was to have a network. So you're not on a lone island, or you don't feel, oh, I'm the only person going through this. And it really parallels in many aspects of life, that there's others experiencing something similar, and I can learn from their experience. And as the leader, as we say, we need to step up. It's our responsibility. It's mentorship, but it's sharing what matters to us in a leadership role. And whether you're guiding a team, whether you're saving communities, if you're building business solutions, it's what matters. And we touch on values. I think that's really important, is to show what is the really intrinsic elements of leadership that we can impart. And I don't think we're so much behind, but we need to help elevate people to share what's needed to foster this leadership. And I think it is in community, it is in work, and it is in life, as how we can provide that mentorship and contribution to elevate people. I think different people shine at different times in that capacity. And as a leader, it's our responsibility, and the onus is on us to help other people recognize the ebbs and flow and the ups and downs and the celebrations that go with delivering in a very complex situation. If you're an entrepreneur, it takes dogged determination, but it also takes heart, it takes will, it takes humility, all of those things combined, and that you can, there's a flow to it. It's an evolution, and it's a journey. Leadership for me, like, I'm not done learning from others, and I have mentors, and it's just recognizing that it moves, it flows, it changes, and we can support each other, and it's on us to elevate the emerging leaders. I guess they need to see by example.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
I don't know if I answered what you said, but
no, I know it was great and certainly helpful. I'm going to pull all of the comments that we've had so far, and I'm going to ask one more question, and I think we'll probably use that as sort of our, summarizing it a little bit. So what I got from Mark and Miriam at the beginning was that, it's this constant unfolding, right? Like, every game is different. Yeah, every day, every week as an entrepreneur is different. However, the other piece that I pulled out was from Pam, in terms of the importance of networking, and how there are very common, intrinsic values. And, I think back to the sports analogy with, a great coach has a game plan. And so many times as an entrepreneur and as a woman leader, I've thought to myself, what is the blueprint? Like, what is a blueprint to lead, an exceptional life and to make an exceptional impact? And so I think part of one of the ways you can accelerate and fully activate leaders is to bring them together and to share stories and experiences in the hopes of kind of coordinating some of those likes. And you've heard me talk about, the leader path. And if we are not always relearning the exact same lesson that someone has just learned just slightly ahead of us and could have shared that with us, rather than us having to experience it full on our own, or even to warn us, it would be great. It would be helpful. So I've always kind of craved a bit of a path. Here's kind of some of the things that happen and that you need to watch out for. And here's what I've learned. And here's some lessons. It might look different to you because it's always unfolding, very, very differently. But I'm just wondering, with all of that being said, as a bit of a wrap-up question, I think the piece that I'd like to leave us with today is, if we're looking to bring people together to take a look at a higher level of leadership, just to take a look at what that might look like in their own life, within their network, the people they work closely with, within their industry, their organization. What does that look like to you? And what's maybe one thing we could focus on at this time? Like, what's a good starting point for something like that? And Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot again.
I have lots to say. I think that when I looked at being in part of the word accelerator, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about what I was going to say, and it's all about. I think it's all about making decisions. I think it's all about the actions you take, and I think that from that you look at your results, and then you learn from it. And then when you learn from it, it helps you to learn what your next steps are. And that's applicable to not just your personal life, but your business life and being an entrepreneur, and the legacy you want to leave, and how you react to it. And I think that, you got to believe that, and I always refer back to Zig Ziglar and Og Mandino and some of the, Think and Grow Rich, about, what the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. And it's just like, when you put your goals and everything into action, you're going to grow. And it's just, there's nothing in front of you that's going to stop you. And I think, being an accelerator, I think such an important position, and just, to be able to think freshly, I guess is a good word, and think positively, and really almost push that onto other people, so that they can feel that, I call it the dominoes effect, where it does a trickle effect. It just goes, and everybody else feels the same way, and it's a cool feeling, and makes you feel good as a person.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I really agree. What I heard you say is, where do we start? We start by making some decisions and taking action, and then learning from that and readjusting. And one of the things that we would like to do at the Accelerator is to ensure that every single participant walks away with what we're calling their 12-month leader path. So they are actually committing to 3 very tangible actions, 3 decisions that they're going to work on within the next 12 months. And we actually we'll be collecting those. We'll be creating a report of those, because we really want to see some action as a result of the accelerator. So each person will get a leader path commitment, form to fill out, and what am I ready to commit to? What kind of decisions and actions can I take in the next 12 months as a leader that's going to tangibly move me forward, and what do I need to be able to do that? So Miriam, what do you think in terms of where do we start now? Wanting to lead at a higher level, what does that look like? Where do we even start? What's the number one thing that you feel we could or should focus on at this time?
Well, I'm going to speak personally, which is and Mark touched on it, but I think, and also what I'm most excited about with the workshop is getting the thoughts. Like, so I think that we've talked about the fact that we're learning lessons. We as leaders are kind of going, okay, we'll figure that out now. Let's share that with someone. Or I find personally, it's what I struggle with most is making something actionable, getting it out of my head. Like, I'll think about it and I'll kind of go like, man, that is a dream of mine. Like, we need to do that. My team should do that. I need to, there's things that constantly are thought about, but there's so many things that happen that then make it difficult to put into action. And sometimes I think when you are able to then take that time to really think about, no, this is where I'm putting my focus. I'm making a decision right now to have, like you even just identified, like writing it down, like putting, like, what are these 3 things that I'm going to be actionable with? I'm going to make sure that I do these things for my team to continue my development as a leader, but then know that I'm actually progressing something either within my organization or my network. Or I just find that I will reach a point, even myself, that you hit that barrier, and it's almost like oh, keep going, like
Yeah.
It's not done yet, like go.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's I feel like this workshop, and hopefully what we discuss and the decisions we make over those few days help all of us kind of feel like, okay, well, here's where we're going. These are things that I'm deciding. Here's how we're gonna
Yeah. I love that. I love that. It does go with what Mark said. And the quote that comes to mind for me is don't die with any dreams inside, and I think so many people think it's back to the bucket list, whether that's personal, professional, like whatever. But, I think if you have that craving or that calling to do something, there's a reason why it's there. But you're right, to take it from up here, to make it actionable and to strategize, and then have people to hold you accountable and to figure out the steps to actually get it done. That's a whole other process, but I think there's a lot that we can learn and support each other as leaders to get that done. And it's funny because it's usually the big things. It's the things that scare us most. It's like, but it's so big, but it wouldn't be there if we weren't called, we wouldn't be compelled. So yeah. Pam, what do you think about a starting point? What's most important for our focus?
Well, I think it kind of umbrellas what we've been talking about. And I really think it's collaboration and network. And I think through the accelerator, that's what we'll experience. So whether it's that big idea or pushing the social needle, whatever that looks like, is we don't do it alone. And I think that hearing that other voice, that voice outside of our head, that is actually somebody else who may be in a similar position or have the experience, and then network. I continue to be in awe when I'm speaking with someone, I go, this is what we're trying to do. Oh, well, I will connect you with so-and-so. Or, what does collaboration look like? And I mentioned earlier that it's in work, it's in community, and it's in our personal life. And I just think with collaboration, things aren't as daunting. They happen faster, and we have more access and connection. So I think that's by facilitating it through Accelerator, for example. I think that's what we're looking for, and that it feeds connection. And I think that's where big ideas become big realities.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's not as daunting and it's faster. And I think my hope around collaboration would be that the coordination of collaboration becomes even like tuned up to a higher level. I think women on an individual basis are so good at, oh, I'm going to connect you to so-and-so. And I think that, you know, personally, I'd love to see partnerships, organizational partnerships, and not to say there aren't some great examples of partnerships, but I would like to see partnerships interprovincially and across provinces become even stronger, so that for that very same reason that we're able to accomplish things that right now seem a bit daunting or are taking a long time. I think if we have even greater coordination and communication across various organizations and potential players. And I go back to the analogy, I know you're probably sick of hearing about it, but the analogy of the league, you know, where there's different conferences and there's different teams and there's different players and there's different, you know, specialty teams, but it all works. There's a common goal. It's well communicated. It's this totally efficient matrix, at least to me it is. And it's like, okay, now how do we do that well with leadership for a specific purpose, for a specific impact? And that's what I, you know, get excited about. So I'm going to wrap it for today. I want to respect your time today. And we will have at least one more with whoever I can reel in between now and September. A couple of little announcements. And one is our especially for the recording, our VIP passes are on sale between now and the end of May, so another couple of weeks, and that saves people $200 on a 3-day pass. So it is a great early bird discount. And then the other piece is that come the end of June, we will be starting to put out various polls and surveys in an effort of that co-creation, because we want those people that are participating to actually help us finish up and tidy up our programming to make sure that it is most relevant to those people who are showing up. So you'll see that obviously we have the framework of the 3 days, but there are some details that we're holding on to get your input on if you're going to be there. We want to make sure that it's that relevant. So we're asking you to help us with the programming details. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you to my guests and to everyone that made time to join us. And here's to a fabulous Accelerator come the end of September, and to activating leaders across Canada, in Regina, Saskatchewan, and across Canada. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you, everyone. Wonderful to
Thank
see
you,
all.
Charlene. Bye, folks.
You.
Bye.